Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Top Talk webinar session. Hi, Antti. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Excellent.
How are you, Jay?
I'm very good. Thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. I've obviously had the privilege of meeting you and knowing about your work, so I'm really excited that you've agreed to share it with our members and our audience tonight. Antti, just before I hand you the screen, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in photography.
It's been a long ride in a way. So I started my first company in '95. It was a web development company, and started doing graphic designing. I was 1 year in States learning graphic design, and then after that in mobile gaming. So I've been a creative director and art director for a long time, and then in a way from stock photography, I started doing stock photography when the digital cameras came, and kind of funded my gear with those money, and slowly I kind of turned in the dark side of photography, and 2008 I just jumped from my own company and put a business card saying that I'm a photographer now, and I've been on that ride since then. So it's been kind of a weird path.
Excellent. And I've just done exactly what I said I was going to do, because I remember you saying now that you had that information on your first slide. So sorry that we've got it in the wrong order, but thanks for sharing. Well, I've had the privilege of knowing also about the year that you've just spent here in Wales, not far from us in Cardiff, and how that turned out to be a pretty incredible year for you. And I know you're going to share that information with the guys tonight. Guys, these are the links on how you can interact with Antti, but I'll share these to you via the chat panel tonight as well. So Antti, I'm going to send the screen over to you, and I'll let you know when we can see it, because I know we've got quite a lot to get through. It's coming over to you now. Antti, the screen's all yours. Here you go, mate.
Alrighty. So we kind of talk with Jay about what kind of going to talk about, and we kind of get this subject from zero to hero. That is kind of my story of my Wales trip, and from below you can see the kind of a gear I'm using. I'm using Electron flashes and Canon, and Chromalax is my kind of a go-to product that when I print stuff. Already kind of explain about my past, but then from the photography side, I started as a portrait guy, basically doing portraits, all kind of portraits from wedding and kids and graduation. But then my kind of a creative side started to push into my images, and I turned mostly doing advertisement and commercial work. And then 2014, I moved to Wales with my whole family, and started basically the career from scratch. I didn't know anyone in the city, and no one knew me. And I will tell that story a bit later. My company is called Alias Creative, and I'm also represented by another agency called Kexit. Doing a lot of workshops at the moment in Finland and France. You can see the website for my workshops if anyone is interested of getting me available worldwide. So as awards and merits, this year has been a good year. Won a golden camera in FEP Photographer of the Year competition. Also gold medal in Super Circuit, PX3. I'm a QEP, that's qualified European photographer. Also won a bronze medal in World Cup. You know, I tried. It's part of my marketing thing to take part of these different competitions and try to manage or even kind of push myself to be better. That's why I take part of these competitions. On the creative side, this is an image that I found online, and that kind of shows my head. It's kind of full of creative ideas, and I just try to get them out of my head. Here's a couple of images that kind of shows what kind of stuff I do. I do a lot of conceptual images, a lot of detailed planning. Basically, I do mostly like a single shots that I really detailedly planned. These are work that I did in Wales for the Jaguar and this Olympic medalist. One really famous Finnish designer, Arnio. This is my kind of style of portraits. Then I create the stuff that I see in my head. I try to figure out how to create it, and I don't have much of a limitations what kind of pictures I can do. I like environmental portraits, but I like taking pictures in actual locations, but I try to bring them to my kind of a style. Do a lot of composite images, techniques where I overlay multiple images on top of each other just to create this kind of a light. A lot of commercial work for universities, advertising agencies, different companies. These are from my Wales trip, Doctor Who stuff. And then I create all kind of a weird concept of trying to push these images more original than just plain portraits. For example, these just bending the mind in a different way. And the boy is my boy, and the girl in pink is my own daughter, and these are just portraits that I like. Let's go into creative. So I thought beginning of just explaining how I work and how my creative side works and where I get the ideas from. So my kind of process is that everything starts from the idea. And when I get the idea down, I do a mood board, I collect different images in Pinterest or somewhere else, and then I try to sketch the idea out. And through this process, I can say or show the client what I'm seeing in my head. And without these process parts, I cannot explain what kind of picture we are making. So, because usually I'm doing a really detailed planned shot, and I have to just try to visualize, pre-visualize the idea, so everyone can agree that okay, this is a great idea. So for me, everything starts with an idea or a concept, and I've like said it out loud, like clearly, that I'm a thief, and this there's a famous quote from Pablo Picasso that says art is death. So that's kind of the same way as how I work. A few years back, I found this YouTube video of Austin Kleon, a Sri Lanka artist, and he kind of explains the same way as I approach a subject, and I'm like stealing ideas everywhere all the time. I'm looking pictures, I'm reading magazines, and I'm watching movies, but the way I'm watching those, I'm watching the stuff I can steal from. And when I get the idea or concept that I have to kind of come up with, I go to my own Pinterest collection where it's full of different ideas, like stolen ideas. And then I just pick and smash like multiple ideas together, because in my mind everything is already invented, but then when you create something original from different ideas, then you are kind of creating something new. And I make it totally different, like copying is a totally different thing than like stealing. So I recommend you to watch that 10-minute video by Austin Kleon, and just type Sri Lankan artist in YouTube and you will find it. It's a TEDx talk and it's just excellent. It's definitely for the photographers or anything like who's working as an artist. Definitely something to watch out. My sources of inspiration, I watch pictures daily. I try to go with this. Here's a bunch of websites that I go daily. Wonderland, 500 Pics, 1X, Pinterest, Creative Finder, and so on. And I watch the images of different photographers, look what they've done, and kind of if I see something cool, it could be a color palette, it could be an idea, it could be a concept, it could be a retouching technique, and I pin them in my board and I just write why I pinned it there. So I always try to find something like new from that idea. When I get the idea down, so I go to my bag of stolen ideas and a bunch, get like a bunch of ideas together and I get the creative concept from there, I try to start doing a mood board, so picking up images from different sources to show what kind of work, what kind of theme, what kind of images, what kind of poses I'm going to do. And my mood boards could be anything like this. So this is a mood board for one IT company where I created images. So this shows that, okay, we are in some kind of a amusement park where there's ice and penguins. So it was a Linux programming guy, so of course they had to be penguins and don't feed animal signs and Tommy guns and stuff like that. So you will get kind of an overall idea where in what kind of a mood the picture should be. Or then for the Jack Sparrow photo shoot, I collected images of the color palettes of scenes from the movie and movie poster, what they look like and what works and what not. Another on the left is another project where I kind of researched the Avatar movie, like floating islands and trees and how I could form those into my own work. Sometimes the mood boards works also as a guideline in photo shoot, so just a reminder for myself that, okay, remember to take these kind of shots. Remember to take the reflections or shoot through the car and for example, that was the Jaguar case, and for the Under Armour, just different kind of running. So these work as a guideline for me and also a guideline what kind of work I'm going to do. For example, for the athletes. So I collect different kind of images just to get the overall idea of what I'm going to do. And then I go in sketching because from the mood board or the idea I have to kind of start doing that, okay, this is what I'm seeing in my head, this is the picture. So my crappy sketches might be something like that. But when you know my kind of style and you know that the mood board I already gave and the idea, so I can see it like clearly from here that, okay, it should be a guy in a computer and the table turns into an environment like trees and like open plains and there's a waterfall. And from that I can say to the art directors that, okay, is this the concept that you're looking for? And so I can usually do just like one shot or like small adjustments, but I'm doing this shot. I'm shooting the guy with the computer and I know I'm going to create the rest of the stuff. I'll explain a bit more of this a bit later, but here's a rough sketch of what kind of my sketches are. Or then this is a sketch for the same as I showed you earlier, the penguin stuff. So this is a sketch, and since I was taking pictures of 90 people on 10 different images, I need to sign, okay, there's a group coming up to my photo shoot, and I said just sign people that, okay, who's gonna portray those two guys sitting on the edge. And so I'm just taking single shots, and so it guides me, and it's also the client that say they need to see in this stage that, okay, this is the image I'm going to create. Or this is a really fast sketch for the mood board that I showed, the Avatar thing. So it was a consult company that the main island is a shape of Finland, and they are kind of tied together with these different bridges, and so this is just a mock-up, really fast mock-up of the concept, and the client easily can see that, okay, this is what we're going to do, and it guides me also. Or they can be as terrible as this. So so from these I can see that what I'm doing, so it's Alice in Wonderland things. But anyways, I can just pose those two people in the front and just make their shot and the Queen of Hearts in the back that way, and then I will see that, okay, the cat will be there, and build a lot of weird things in the picture. Or they sometimes I go and check the environment where I'm going to shoot beforehand, and then I write like notes to myself that, okay, remember the light if I'm using like a couple of flashes, or so it guides me also to remind that, okay, remember to do the left side corridor, flash there and remove the poster, and what's the angle. And for example, from this, the end result was this, or the same project. The guy, my kind of a sketch were test out, okay, this is the angle, and remember to shoot the runner there, and let's figure out if I'm going to duplicate the hand weights on the other side. And from that, the end result. So the client agrees on this. So they will see in their heads the same thing I'm seeing. That, okay, these things will be replaced and stuff like that. And so here's one example in a way that kind of explains the process from the idea to the mood board to the sketch. I was hired by a Wales artist, Jamie Harris, to do a kind of record label or his promotional pictures. And I immediately knew that, okay, I'm going to do this idea. I've done this before, but I kind of stole my own idea that I already stole from these images. So I remember that I've seen these images where there's characters or people like lying on their side on the street and hanging from a lamppost when they turn the perspective over. So I thought it's a really cool idea, but I wanted to do something totally different with that concept. So from these ideas, first couple of years ago, I created one idea actually, that the wedding picture that was in promotional stuff. But then when I knew that, okay, I'm going to twist the perspective, you start to see the world in a different way. You walk almost like sideways and try to see that where I'm going to put that person. And then I'm walking in Cardiff and in Cardiff Bay, and I see this letter formation. It's a J turning sideways, and immediately the guy's name is Jamie Harris, and I was like, that couldn't be any perfect. I'm going to put the guy over there, and kind of it's builds on the story because it's a letter J. You cannot find a location like that, even if you kind of search. But it was just a happy accident that they had this kind of a stone formation in a Cardiff Bay. And then I sketched the idea out. So the guy will be there sitting on, actually lying on his back on that arc of J, and then I'm going to put a horizon on the other way around to the image. So the end result was this. So kind of the idea first, then you kind of try to see the world, like looking interesting places where this kind of a change the whole perspective thing works, and then you accidentally stumble on this perfect location where you shoot the guy on his back. It was a really fun photo shoot, but Jamie was pretty tired after, because you have to stretch your neck muscles and stomach muscles to get your balance right on that arc. But anyways, it's from idea you start to see the world in a different way. You find a great location. You do a sketch, and you know that you're doing this shot, and then the end result. So in a way, in a short kind of way, this is how I work from idea to kind of with and pre-visualize the stuff and create these images. Do they have any questions, Jay?
Yeah, a couple of questions have come through about obviously the thought process, but I knew that you were going to talk them through it. Are you using anything specifically to software-wise or anything to create your mood boards?
No, I use my mood board usually. I pin them in Pinterest usually. So I just collect them because it's easy to pin ideas to Pinterest, and then every time I go, I use Evernote on my cell phone, that because they are already updated in my laptop. So if I see an idea or read an article, so it's a Pinterest usually for images, and basically all that other stuff that I see in the world, I just type stuff in Evernote. So those are the key stuff that I kind of keep track on.
And for example, then, how much time was spent in post-production on this image of Jamie?
Actually, it was rather straightforward. I think it's I usually make the picture at some stage, and I have to sleep over. I cannot finish it one day. I need to come back on the next day, because usually you go too far with the retouching, and then you have to go back. But I would say if I would count all the hours that I have only like sitting on my chair and retouching, I would say maybe 6 to 8 hours. So in a way, not that much, but still like small details, and but it's not in a way a big process for this image. I've retouched images for longer time, definitely, but definitely I cannot finish the image on one day, so I have to always come back to the idea or the image on the next day, because you usually have to come back and see, okay, this needs to be changed, but you cannot on the same day. You're getting too tired to watch the same image too long. So
brilliant. The actual image that we're looking at now, how many layers is that? But is it 1 or 2?
No, I think it's overall. There's a lot of smoke, and I would say this has maybe 20 layers, and it's kind of few on my standards. If you watch these earlier images of, let's say, the Jack Sparrow, they could be a 50 to 70 or 100 layers, because there's so many small stuff, all those smokes and sparks and bubbles and all weird stuff. So there's a lot of layers, and it's sometimes really hard to come back to the image because you don't even know what you've done. So and for the when I'm doing those workshops, I try to kind of narrow those layers down, so it'd be easier to explain people how they form. But usually, I think everyone works in a different way, and the layers is just sometimes a mess. It's really hard to come back with those images. But this doesn't have that many layers anyway. So.
And the key shot of Jamie on his back there, what did you use to light that?
It's actually, there's no light. For these shots, I didn't have, it's all natural light, because it was a good day. For this shot, I didn't use. It was a bright day, and I since I knew that it's going to be an environmental shot anyways, I didn't use any flashes with this one.
Brilliant. Just a few more questions before we carry on. A few of them are sort of generic. I know we've discussed it, so I'm not sure if it's further on in your presentation. But do you have a sort of standard operating procedure, with your filters and stuff in your post production? So you sort of your go-to filters, sort of thing.
Yeah. I rarely use any like pre-made filters. I try to, and definitely I don't use much of a plugins in Photoshop. I have my own process of that I go through in my workshops, and it's just kind of straightforward how I retouch the skin, I clear the scratches, and kind of my most important that gives my style. Because people quite often say that my work looks like they are like painted, or they're like in a way illustrated look, and it's really kind of a head-on like right thing, because my dodge and burn layer is the thing that gives that kind of style, because I basically overpaint, or kind of I try to shoot really flat contrast images, or then develop them in Lightroom really flat, because I will bring the contrast in selectively by my dodge and burn layer, and that gives, since I'm basically painting the picture again with light and shadow, that gives the quality of that it's painted. So those, and of course the sharpening is also another thing, that, and my color grading, that gives that quality of that they start to feel that, okay, there's something kind of painted in these images. So I have kind of a similar process of where everything happens, the cleaning stuff, when I color grade, when I dodge and burn, and when I sharpen. So it's kind of a straight process for any kind of big pictures.
Brilliant. I know we've got a lot to cover, but just people have been asking obviously about the process, but you and I have discussed that. We're already going to plan another webinar where you're going to actually show them the production processes, then we're going to show them behind the scenes on the build of an image. So because there's a lot of cool stuff that I still know that you're going to share with them tonight. So Antti, I'll hang on to the rest of the questions because they're kind of generic for the end. So you crack on, pal.
Yeah, but anyways, because it was a kind of a, I tried to squeeze in a couple of things in this first webinar, and I think that people are always interested about marketing ideas. And since this is not retouching or anything else, this is more like on the creative side, and then the marketing thing. My whole year in Cardiff, starting from scratch, is a kind of educational story. But I start kind of approaching this marketing and through my kind of a tools, and I always say that these three things have been key, at least for me, and why I do stuff the way I do, and what these stuff has brought into my life. So the portfolio thing is one of the most important things photographers to have, and I really like printed portfolio because your work, photographer's work, is visual. If I would start to explain people that, okay, I create these magical images that looks kind of painted and people they are full of stories and weird things, I could never explain by words what kind of work that I do. The scale of or like understanding of, if you say you're a photographer, that word is so inflated that everyone can be a photographer. Even Uncle Bob with his brand new camera is a photographer, and in people's mind, you are in the same scale as your cousin with the fancy camera, but on your point of view, your scale is totally different. And when you explain that, okay, you are really good with photography, but you have to show it in visual. And at the moment, I've noticed that people browse stuff. If you start showing your pictures through your cell phone or iPad, they are so used of browsing those images too fast. But then when you hand them over a leather-covered portfolio, they will clean their hands and start going through the pages like half of the time, half slowly than in any kind of a digital device. So I carry portfolio everywhere. I have it like an A4 size portfolio every time with me, and when I go to meeting, I have a bigger leather one. And there's something magical when you give printed portfolio in their hands, because there's a extra sense. They touch, they smell the paper, and it's really good. At least advertising agencies or the clients, they value, because that might be the end product in a way to be printed somewhere. And since people are now all digital, it's kind of a throwback to give them a printed portfolio. And everyone doing photography or anything visual, portfolio is a must. I've done business in a bus, just trying to kind of come up with a reason to show my portfolio, handing out just for no reason to the people next to me in a bus, and I managed to get a work from that. So portfolio is a must. For me, also own projects and creating content around them, it's really important. And I create content and own project because especially own projects guides me to do my best work. They are the pictures that I would do without anyone paying for me anything. And my own projects guides my portfolio also, that okay, I'm going to show these pictures I would do for basically for free, but they also guide the clients to see that okay, this guy has this kind of a style. So my own projects are really important for me, because then always I do my best work. And when I put them in my portfolio, it guides people to see that okay, this guy does this kind of work. And then if I'm manage to do it right, whenever people wants to use me as their client cases, they know what kind of pictures I'm able to create, and then I'm in a happy place that, okay, they want me because of my style or my storytelling style, images or whatever. And these are, I write content, and there's another video that you should kind of check out, is the Simon Sinek Start With Why, and this kind of explains why I and how I write my blogs. Because usually photographers write blogs that, okay, on the left side, that, okay, here's my latest image and this is how I made it. And hardly ever they explain that why you created that image, like from their own projects. And I start to kind of turn it upside down and explain that, okay, why I created this image and this is how I did it and here are the images. It's more interesting to push that focus away from yourself to somewhere else, because it always comes back. And here's a great example in a way of these content and stories, that what might happen if you start writing content on different, even on your own blog, or try to push it in international blogs. So for example here, when I came from Wales, I had one friend that does these miniatures. So that's a 7 centimeters long statue, or high statue, and the guy on the left is the creator. And I knew that he has been doing like a lot of these cool miniatures while I was in UK, and I just asked, okay, can we do a kind of a project together, like two artists collide, that I really value your art, which is like doing these small, really cool looking miniatures, but I'm going to create something my style out of it. So I took a picture of my friend who creates these miniatures. I create my style image. I superimposed his face into his own miniature, and I created that image. And I wrote a blog about how cool it is to collaborate with another artist that is in a totally different category, like doing miniatures, like physical things. And I posted on my own blog, and also I managed to get it in the SLR Lounge, where I wrote quite a few blog articles. And it took like 15 minutes when it was posted in the SLR Lounge to get my first email from Digital Photo Magazine that said, okay, this is a really cool kind of approach, this miniature. Can we write an article about that? And I was like, hell yeah, and it would be really cool to kind of get like eyes on my friend and all this miniature stuff. And then another maybe 15 minutes, the guy who was writing the article went to my website and came back to me that, okay, maybe we do it's kind of silly to do just one picture. Maybe we'll do a whole feature on you. So from that one picture, I managed to get a 6-page spread in Digital Photo Magazine explaining 4 different images, how they were created. So that's one kind of example from how your content can create you. Like, I could never buy this kind of a publicity in any, because 6 full spreads in that big of a magazine it's just amazing. And just because I wrote a blog about my friend who creates these miniatures. So you have to kind of, when you write content, you have to figure out what would be more interesting than just releasing those pictures. The stories behind them are more interesting, and they draw attention from a wider audience than just photographers or people interested in retouching. So that's why the content is a key in a way for my work. So this is, I have numerous different kind of stories about how my content or blog has got me into places. So portfolio and content, creating those stories and doing collaborations, and it's not about you. It's a wider audience. It's you're doing something with someone, and the stories are more intriguing than just showing pictures. But then we go to networking thing. So this is almost, it became, when I came back from Wales, it became almost like a marketing strategy, because I started to figure out that, okay, this is why things happened to me, and I named this strategy, it's called Contact the Guy with a Cool Beard, and I'm pretty sure in the audience there's this guy listening actually, but let's go through this strategy. So the story actually starts in August 2014 when we moved to the Cardiff, Wales with my family, and basically I was happy, I was doing okay here in Finland with work-wise, so you pick up the phone and read an email and you get work, but then you are suddenly in a situation where no one knows you, I don't know anyone, and you have almost like a bit less than a year to do something. I made a couple of goals. One was try to get into BBC and try to get a chance to take photographs of Cardiff Blues rugby players. So I know that they're the superstars of the whole country and of the whole city, and I had a lot of friends in London, and I was, in the beginning I thought I'd be running with train all the time to London to work, but Cardiff was an excellent town to do stuff because it was perfect sized city, 350,000 people, and really fast growing, a lot of cool things happening, and then during that year, weird things happened. I managed to get to the BBC. I managed to do a photo shoot with Doctor Who, behind the scene people. I was in BBC TV show. I did an international cider brand images, rather big mental health campaign, Time to Change Wales. I met Game of Thrones people. Well, the season's already started again. I did those rugby players. I did cosplay pictures that went viral. I'll explain a bit of those later. I shot really rare Audi Quattro rally cars, met almost real thing Jack Sparrow, made a friend out of Olympic medalist Jamie Bulge, shoot a brand images through him to Jaguar. Did steampunk images in a mansion of English Baron, so befriended the whole staff over there and spent the whole Easter vacation with them. I was shortlisted in the biggest Cardiff kind of a competition for companies, and I got a kind of honorary mention in the gala. I did a lot of pictures, kind of corporate business magazine, Cardiff Life in the city. I already won a good award in the PX3, like one of the biggest in Europe, competition with the Jamie Harris picture. I created images for the BAFTA winner, RealSFX. I was keynote lecturer in university for design students, keynote in the International Creative Morning event. While I was there, I also won the bronze medal in the BBC Photography World Cup and made a lot of friends. And all this happened in almost like 10 months. And how everything happened, getting up every morning and just contacting people, helping people, and doing my own projects. And these are cool kind of stories actually, because nice things happened. So my visualization was the key thing to kind of me to explain them now. First day I was in Cardiff, I made this chart of only my name in the chart, and whenever I met new people, I made a link to the chart, just creating my own kind of a bubble, because I was in a ground zero. I didn't know anyone, so it's a perfect time to start seeing what kind of a network I'm going to create in this year. And in 1 year, my network was like this. So there's a different kind of a stuff going on. There's companies and people and projects and all different stuff and different links between these different people and companies. It was great to follow. And when I saw this, when I started to see through my network where this work actually came from, I started to figure out, okay, this is kind of funny that they came from, in a way, trivial thing. I wasn't even trying to look for work, but they happened for a reason in a funny way. So there's two stories from my steampunk images that went viral that are living all the time at the moment. So the story starts actually a couple of months before I moved to Wales. I was looking through photographers that are working in Cardiff just to find, so I like to collaborate with other photographers, and I found these pictures of this couple getting married in this mansion in these steampunk outfits. So I decided to contact them, saying that, okay, I'm coming over and I would love to take pictures of you guys. And firstly, these guys, Paul and Daniel, thought that, okay, what weird Finnish guy is coming here, and try to contact. But when they saw my work, it was easy to convince them that, okay, we're going to do a photo shoot. And since they got married in that mansion of the Baron, we were able to get in for a whole day, the mansion basically on our own, shooting these images. And then I took pictures of the mansion itself, and then I provided them to the owners of mansion, and that all kind of basically turned into a commercial case because they really loved my pictures. So the Mansell house in Somerset is now filled with my pictures. And because of that guy in my pictures, Paul, since I like these visual things, he said that why don't you go to Comic-Con? And in Comic-Con I decided to do something totally different. I made this backpack flash thing and went to take my kind of style portraits. So I did these kind of portraits of these cosplay people. And because of those pictures, it went to the magazines, and I got to know the people in Cardiff Life. Because of those, I did the covers and a lot of other photography stuff for the Cardiff Life magazine. Because of those cosplay pictures, I got to know the Cardiff Jack Sparrow at this photo shoot for him. And then on the second time I went to the Comic-Con, I decided to bring another flash and do more of my style of images. And so I created these. And I wrote a blog about these, that these are the hero of the Comic-Con, not the celebrities, but these guys wait in line, and these guys pay to get the autographs. And then when I wrote it, the blog, I started to see that, okay, something weird is happening. One day, it was almost like a couple of weeks ago, it came like 1 year ago. So I started to see that, okay, something is spreading now. I see people are trafficking in my website, and a couple of really big blogs, Board Panda has featured my pictures, and it's just spread like a wildfire from there. So those cosplay pictures went viral, and because of those cosplay pictures, Cosplay magazine, Cosplay Culture made again a huge feature of me. Because of these cosplay images, last year I was in New York shooting Walking Dead, and a couple of these well-known celebrities. Because of that, I've been in numerous magazines because of these cosplay pictures. So this is the first story in a way. Myself contacting these totally strangers because they had cool outfits, and everything is spread from there. And I can see from that path what happened because of that. So it's a trivial thing. I contacted people that had cool outfits, and it's spreading all the time. But then we come to another story. Comes a guy with a cool beard, and the guy is called Rahim Mustafa, and Sugarbox Studios. He's a cool guy because he's a key point of my story to getting BBC. Because I tried to get the BBC as hard as possible. I sent emails, I called, and I even walked to the reception. But it's a hard place to get into to do anything. So, but then I decided to do this my own portfolio for this website called Purple Port. And when you do your own portfolio there, you will start to get emails or like information that, okay, this guy wants to take your pictures. So it's a place where photographers and models and hair and makeup people try to find collaborate projects. And then I see in my emails that, okay, this guy is going to cut out his beard, and if anyone wants to take pictures out of it, just contact. And I just thought that my portfolio misses a guy with a beard picture. So I contacted the guy, and he happened to live quite close by, maybe less than a mile away, and we met over coffee. And Rahim explained, okay, he's doing a fitness photographs. You should actually check definitely his work. He's flying with that kind of a branch of, and I decided head on that, okay, when I showed my work, of course Rahim was saying that, okay, this is impressive stuff, and I decided to help him with retouching and maybe doing light setups. And then we started talking that, okay, what do you do for work? And he said that he's a video editor for BBC, like freelance, doing behind-the-scenes footage, editing for Doctor Who. And I was like, oh, that couldn't be any perfect. I've been trying to get my way to the BBC. And Rahim just kind of paid back, in a way, my helping him immediately, sent a couple of text messages. And I think it was already like next week I was sitting in BBC cafeteria with the brand manager of Doctor Who, and after that meeting also Danny Hargraves for Real SFX. So it just went weird. So I was in TV for the BBC World News for the TV show week in, week out. Because of that, I did these pictures. And then of course Doctor Who set. I was inside TARDIS taking pictures of these behind the scenes guys. Actually, here's Edward Russell, the brand manager, and so these are actually raw files. The environment was perfect for taking these kind of pictures. And the Donny Hargraves for the Real SFX, and we became good friends. And these pictures have been also in the magazines. But the key thing is that I contacted a guy that I didn't know that had a cool beard, and that's a really interesting story, because that contact, me doing something, me helping Rahim, and he paying back, he being so nice to me, that opened his connections to me, opened my door to BBC. And here are in a way the personal experiences of getting work in a different way. I do always like my own projects. I do what I love, and when I do what I love, I do my best work. Portfolio is always with me. I write content, and I try to create stories. I'm really active to meet different people, because people know people. I am open, helping people without any hesitation. Anything I can do. There's no secrets in this industry. Everything can be learned online. And the visualization of my network helped me to understand that where my main work actually came from. And they came from these weird places where you meet someone random and you help them without, hesitation, sharing. It's just amazing. So that's kind of I think it's a cool name for strategy, because Rahim is a great guy, and I'm so happy to have him as my marketing strategy head. So this is kind of my story of this part. So
brilliant. There are loads of questions. Rahim has sent you a message saying he doesn't look like that anymore.
I know what he looks like.
But no, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. Let's just remind people there was so much for us to sort of introduce you to with Antti tonight, but Antti has agreed that we're going to look, we're going to do at least 2 more webinars with you. We're going to look at the actual processing, the post-processing that you do to an image, and we're going to look possibly at the networking in it as a deeper webinar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent. Well, I've got a load of questions for you, mate. They're not in any particular order, so I'll read them as I have them. Jumping back to the image of Jamie that you took, there's just a general question. Did you think about removing the building at the top, Did you play with that idea, and was a decision made to keep?
There's some other people have asked, but I think it brings, because I tried a version where it's like straight, like it goes straight up, but I think it brings a bit of directional stuff and more interesting balance to the image when it's like the real building continues away, and it kind of I like also like leading lines, and I tried, it looked like totally boring with just a straight edge, so I decided to keep it because it looked for me more interesting with the top part.
Excellent. So this was a good question, I thought. How much do your clients contribute to the idea, or are they coming for you for the whole vision, or is it a bit of both?
It's both. People know what I'm capable of, but I'm really happy to work with art directors also that have already idea, but I really like to contribute also that, okay, because I've been sitting on that side of the table as a creative guy, so I always have something, I might have something more to offer, but I'm really happy to do their idea, but I'm more on a hands-on guy.
Brilliant. Okay, a couple of questions came through. It was quite interesting that they came through when you were talking about, producing. You're carrying your portfolios. That's also something that came up recently in another webinar. Exactly the same, but having the physical portfolio again. The portfolio, is that a combination of your actual work as well as your project work? So, or did you have separate portfolios for each?
No, it's a combination. It's my own projects and client cases, and usually I have like a small, when people relate more when I have a small text what project it was, and it always said it's my own personal project if it's not a client case. So it's a combination. It's my portfolio is basically my own work, and commercial work looks basically the same in a way that the style. So everything is in the book, and I try to narrow it down to be like unified.
Brilliant. I remember the day that I met you, I saw them, didn't I? You had the two with you at the time, so that was brilliant. Somebody's just asked, because you mentioned that you have two, a smaller one and a larger one. Roughly what sizes do you produce them at?
The smaller one that I carry basically everywhere is like A4 size, like reasonably, not really thick book, but kind of a reasonably good size big pictures. And then the leather one, the heavier one, is 30 times 30 centimeters, kind of a lay flat and heavier paper stuff, because I don't carry that. It's too heavy to carry all the time with me, but I always carry some kind of a format portfolio with me. So the smaller goes to my bag, and so it's always with me. And when I know that, okay, I'm going to be this more special meeting, I will get my proper leather one. So it's a worth of carrying to the meetings.
Brilliant. Can you tell us a little bit more about your flash backpack concept that you showed, that you took to the Comic-Con? And what lighting were you using?
Yeah, but by the time I was using actually the wait a second, I will just go back. By the time in Wales I was using Godot's bare bulb flashes. At the moment I'm using Elinchrom Quadra ELBs, but those are it's just a power unit in the backpack, and it's I think it's a 60 centimeters, like a small octa in a light stand, and it produced just enough kind of a light to get these kind of like a head and shoulder kind of images. But it was heady, like it was like way on top of my head. It gave directional light, like it looked like it's coming way above, and it was perfect for these kind of shots. And and on the other set, the next time I went, so they were separate, not my backpack was. But in Comic-Con, it was so funny because people thought I was in character. They thought I'm like a photographer version of Inspector Gadget. So it was really funny because I blended in, so to say.
It's brilliant. And you say now you've switched over to the ELBs.
Yeah, I've used Elinchrom quite a bit. Our studio flashes is all Elinchrom, but when I went to the UK, I had to kind of research on the stuff because the Elinchroms that we had, the Quadros that we had in Finland, they were all the time in use. So I had to kind of find a reasonable setup to use on the time I was there. So those were paid for that trip quite well, but when I came back, I switched definitely back to the Elinchrom because they are in a way more stable and more. I think they work better at the moment for me.
Yeah, we've just changed all of our Quadros to the new LBs, and they're stunning lights, brilliant.
Yeah.
This was an interesting question. Do you see where blogs copy your images without authority as a positive, or as a copyright theft?
I'm not in a way. I'm not paying that attention if people copy. I'm really happy because if I write blogs, I would definitely like that people copy those articles and on their own, because it always gives in the end the pictures will be the focus will be on me. I'm not that afraid of pictures copied. If I see a blatant usage of my images, of course I approach them, but people spreading out my blogs and spreading the images, it's in a way good thing.
Brilliant. Just got a few questions left because a lot of them you actually answered as you went through, so I was kind of paying attention to what you were talking about and then whittled out the questions that we thought we just needed to clarify a bit more on. I thought this was quite nice, and I'll answer it as part of it as well, but somebody was saying that, which is a bit of praise for you as well, Antti, but obviously inspired somebody who would like to get into the more creative style of photography and has a passion to do maybe sort of fairy tale and gothic stuff like yourselves, but a complete starter when it comes to Lightroom or Photoshop. So any advice on where to start? Well, if I can just jump in there, really. I mean, the Photography Academy has already got hundreds of films on getting started with Photoshop and the basics of Lightroom. So if you're not a Photography Academy member, then you should jump onto that, because that, you can learn in your own time, in your own pace. What would you say the best sort of tips and tricks to learn to start off with in Photoshop are, Antti?
I mean, any online courses, because it's you guys have like great courses, and you will get education from the world's best. I mean, it's like no-brainer. You can find a lot of tutorials and from online, but I think by checking out other photographers and their work and kind of analyzing their pictures and then going to their website, and a lot of photographers share information. But if you want to kind of get fast-tracked in a way to the industry, or getting in to know what are the best practice of retouching certain kind of like composite images or color grading, I mean, there's no better source than these online education like places like this one or whatever. That's where I go. I need to be educated myself also by people that are like I adore, and I go and check these places and courses wherever I go, and just try to find your own style of doing, experiment, and there's no like one way of doing stuff. And when you kind of, it's the same thing that don't copy the style, steal something from the style and just create something more.
Brilliant. As I said earlier, and we'll get on this. I know you said you've got a couple of days off, but you and I will arrange a date as soon as we can, sort of give them a taste of the sort of processing webinar that we've talked about, so we can maybe take an image or two images through the stages, and you can show them the basics of getting started with layers and creating these incredible sort of composites that you've been doing. You up for that, bud?
Yeah, because on my workshops I go through these, because for example, if you're creating these kind of images as a composite images, there's a there's certain kind of a best practice that's help you if you are doing this. There's a certain things that you have to keep eye on all the time. If you're doing these kind of pictures, you have to be paying attention to perspective and how you create the images and how you blend the images together and what size the character or elements should be. And so there's a lot of these, in a way, easy like stuff you can check out that you don't have to guess. So that's kind of one part of my education, and also like finding these tools to color grade images better, and not just adding a filter from in Lightroom, because if you do that, suddenly every picture starts to look the same. So that's why I'm usually color grading in Photoshop, because then you have more creative freedom to do whatever you like, and then maybe have small adjustments in Lightroom. So it's just small things, and would be happy to kind of go through those.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, like I said, well, you and I will discuss that quickly, get a date in a diary, and we can let everybody know about it. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
Somebody's asked, and I think you and I have discussed this before, but I'm not sure if I don't think we touched on it in the webinar. Obviously, especially with maybe the image that we're looking at of the Cardiff Jack Sparrow now. So are you using, in some cases for your backgrounds, you need to use some stock photography as well, and where are you getting it from?
Yeah. Commercial cases, I usually use commercial stock photography side, and I have a kind of a list that kind of goes also to my workshops, that I kind of show the people like sources where they can get these images. I use commercial websites, stock photography websites, because if I don't have a budget to go in Caribbean to shoot rocks, or Jack Sparrow in an actual location, I have to go through the images and try to find. I try to use as much as my own pictures, but if I don't have pictures of turtles, I have to find and dig those in commercial stock photography sites. But I have a huge list of also like these CC0 public domain pictures that you can kind of use without even in commercial cases, basically without even like mentioning them, because there's a lot of these kind of websites that other photographers provide their pictures just for fun of it, people to use. But my kind of work, whenever I'm using bits or pieces, they need to be licensed. So, and I have to be really precise on the license, that if it's going to be printed like so and so many times, I have to be sure that my license covers that. So all the commercial work, I'm really precise on where I get my stock photography for my images.
Brilliant. I think this is kind of a testament, really. This is quite a nice question. Somebody said he did join us a little bit late, so sorry if you'd already explained this, but I think this is a bit of a testament to how good the Cardiff Jack Sparrow was, because the question came in was, do you need to have permission to use photographs of celebrities? So I guess the confusion at first was they thought that the Cardiff Jack Sparrow was actually Johnny Depp, but no, I've met this guy as well, and it is quite frightening on how
the guy's name is Terry Cooper. You should look up Cardiff Jack Sparrow, because I think Terry is the UK's best imitator of Jack Sparrow. When this guy puts the wig on, he turns into Jack Sparrow. It was so uncanny to see him turn when he put in a wig on, and we're talking about normal stuff, but I was talking to Jack Sparrow. And this shot is taken in my garage. Without any backdrop of any, and with 2 lights, and it was so funny creating these images for him. So I had a Jack Sparrow in my garage. So.
Excellent. I think that was the first story you told me when we met. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent. We're almost there. I've just got something that I just want to share with you. I think if I'm reading this last question correctly, I think it's in relation to the time that you spent shooting at the Comic-Cons, obviously with your lighting pack, but where if I remember you telling me the story, I think you were just shooting them on plain backgrounds and stuff like that, and then
the first ones were, wait a second, these were just a black wall in a Motorpoint area. There's a Motorpoint arena. It was a black wall. I just because my thing was that I researched the Comic-Con pictures, and I see only like people taking pictures like straight flash with this environment. And since by heart I'm a portrait guy, that's where I started my career of doing portraits. And I just wanted to isolate these people just on their own, and because then they turn into the character, and with the audience they are just themselves acting like one. But when they are isolated like this, they turn into the character, and this was the key of the whole thing, showing totally different kind of cosplay images, portraying them as portraits. And then the other, for this, it was just a blue wall upstairs, and I just dragged my couple of flashes, and I just started to pull people. Can I take your picture? By this time, people already were like waiting for me to be there because they already seen my pictures. So, and these guys became my really good friends, and they are just they are not making noise about themselves. So in a way, I became their like speaker, because I think they deserve all the possible focus they can. They make these outfits themselves, and these are just. It's kind of a weird.
It's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
Everybody should go, even if you're not into it. You know, in the next film and Comic-Con you see advertised in your area. I mean, I'm like Antti, and after meeting him, I'm a bit of a geek, and I like to go to these things anyway. I'm an old sad comic book fan and everything, but even from a photographer's point of view, just go, and most of these events have rooms set. I mean, even as a photographer, you pay, don't you, in some instances to photograph these guys, but a great way to build and practice your own photography as well.
Well, for me it worked kind of nicely, because I asked for a press pass for the first Comic-Con, and I got the press pass, so I can kind of move a bit more freely over there. And also on the second, because then I also provided this picture for the Comic-Con organizers that, okay, this is what I do. And they were also that, okay, we haven't seen anyone basically doing these kind of portraits. So because since my blog started to spread out, again, the organizers of showmasters organizing these events were getting attention also through my pictures. So of course they kind of were willing to get me in the places, because I wasn't charging anyone of any money. It became my kind of a hobby, and I wasn't charging anything from these guys, just because I wanted to portray them as the best. So the whole Comic-Con thing became, in a way, kind of a good passion of me, and I definitely started to know these guys, because it's kind of they have these small cliques. They are they think of course they are a geeky bunch, but so I am, me too. So I blended in perfectly for the group, and I just wanted them to have the focus, not in a way me, but them. But then I always know that when I write a story about someone else, it comes back to me in some form.
Well, that's awesome, mate. And of course, you know, the highlight of it really, at the end of the day, it got you to New York, didn't it? So
yeah, it's in a way I can kind of map out that because of these pictures, they already knew that what I'm capable of doing pictures. It's just that I'm part of this category of taking pictures for cosplay. In a way, a couple of guys in Finland actually have been seeing my pictures and contact me that, and I was accidentally in New York, going to New York on my birthday, and it just matches the thing that they had this event over there, and they've seen my pictures, and they just asked, while you are there, would you like to go to Madison Square Garden to this premiere of Walking Dead? And I was like, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and I got into the Comic-Con taking pictures of Norman Reedus, and also they launched this mobile game over there. So I was taking pictures of the premiere event of that mobile game over there. So my holiday became work, but Well, it wasn't much of a work actually, sir.
No, it sounds like my idea of a holiday, to be fair. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very jealous. Very, very jealous. Antti, we've answered all the questions, so it's just for me to thank you so much for your time tonight. The question panel has lit up with praise and thank you. But I kept this. I wanted to share with you before we sort of closed. This was thank you for bringing such a talented artist and photographer to the table. It was a pleasure to see his work and listen to his thought processes. Very much looking forward to hearing more. So we're going to have to make that happen because you're now in demand, pal. You're in demand, as I knew you would be. But from me here at the Photography Academy and everybody that was online with us, thank you for giving up your time tonight, because I know you're actually 2 hours ahead of us. So you're coming to the end of your day. We've still got a few hours left in ours on that.
And I'm definitely up to, because I'm touring with my workshop, so whoever is willing to get me to UK, I'm definitely up.
Well, we have discussed it. We are discussing it. So we are looking at trying to get Antti here at the church in South Wales. So if anybody's interested in spending a day or 2 days with Antti here on one of his workshops, please let us know via the support link on the Photography Academy. And if we can gauge that and get enough interest from you, then I will definitely be bringing my friend back to the UK and getting him here in the church for you as quick as we can in the next few months. So we've been discussing that behind the scenes. So we'd love to get you here. So if we can make that happen, we will make that happen for you guys. But let us know, please. We need to know your interest in that, so we know we can get him over back to what should be his home, because we want you back, isn't it? Take you to steal you from Finland. Antti, thanks for your time tonight, mate. We'll chat within the next couple of days and get a date for the second webinar, and then we'll do that. Antti, thank you for your time tonight, mate. Enjoy your couple of days. I know you've got some retouching to do, but you've also got a couple of days off with the family, so enjoy that, and I'll chat to you early next week, and we'll get some dates and some stuff.
Having some fun with my tiny Bruce Lee.
Oh yes, you didn't share that with them. Yeah. So
no, you can go to my Facebook pages and check that out.
Go to Antti's Facebook page. Check out the journeys with the tiny Bruce Lee. That sent me a huge pleasure over our bank holiday here, so they can find that.